if you want to grow your business, you have to let go of that and trust the automation.
And the feedback has been outstanding.
To that lead or client, you are the most important thing going on in their life. It's game changer for your firm.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Inside Answering Legal podcast. I'm your host, Taryn Winter Brill. Just call me TWB. So if this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the podcast where we provide a behind-the-scenes look at all things answering legal, our 24/7 virtual receptionist service and customer experience. Now, as we've discussed on the show before, Answering Legal now integrates with many of today's top legal software platforms. So in this episode, we're going to be spotlighting Answering Legal's direct integration with Lawmatics. Here to give us the inside scoop on that integration is Blake Roberts. He is the Director of Strategic Partnerships at Lawmatics. We're also super psyched to be joined by our old pal, Nick Werker. What's up, Nick, who serves as Answering Legal's Marketing Manager. Thank you both so much for joining us today. It's great to see you.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm also excited to be here, and I'm excited to be a guest for once, so I don't have to have my host
Right. You don't
on.
have to steer the ship. I'll take care of that for today. Well, before we dive in, guys, to the integration and the partnership, which we're so excited to hear about, can you briefly introduce yourselves, tell us about your background, introduce yourself to the audience? Blake, you can start first.
Yeah, for sure. So as you mentioned, Director of Strategic Partnerships at Lawmatics. I've been there for about 2 years, but I've been in the legal tech industry since 2015. So bounced around a little bit, spent a lot of time at LawPay. So that's how I kind of got my start here. But so know it pretty well. I still have a lot to learn every day, but love working with you guys.
Terrific. And Nick?
Love working with you too. Yeah, my name is Nick Werker. I'm the marketing director at Answering Legal, and I have not bounced around. I have been here now for 10 years. So I've been in the industry since 2014.
All right. Well, let's dig into Lawmatics first, Blake. For anyone not familiar with the company, what are some of the most important things they should know about the platform? What's the 411, the hook? What do you guys do exactly?
For sure. Yeah, great question. I think, I'll start with the biggest disclaimer is we're not case management. So I think anytime people look at, a lot of technology in the space, they assume it's case management. We actually integrate with a lot of the case management companies. So Clio, Smokeball, several others. So what Lawmatics is a foundational CRM. So if you're familiar with a HubSpot or anything like that, we have taken that model, that idea, and really focused on making it legal specific. As everyone knows in this industry, lawyers have specific needs in their firms. And so we've tailored kind of that product that you would use in any other business for marketing automation, intake, and really tailored it down to the specific needs of what a law firm would need. And so we really focus on kind of the 2 of the 3 phases of a client lifecycle, which is lead to hire, and automating all of that intake, making things easy, tracking marketing, helping with all of that. And then kind of the post-case contact, right? So all of the management from sending out emails, sending out marketing campaigns, tracking all the data, collecting all of the data, and keeping the communication going is where we live. And then we sync and integrate with a ton of different partners from the case management side as well, and kind of push all that data that they've collected. Ultimately, at the end of the day, is we want to be the single source of truth for a law firm's client data.
Yeah, no, terrific. Yeah, I read on your website, I like this. It says our CRM and automation platform cuts down the to-do list, essentially standing between lawyers and successful relationships with their clients, right, from soup to nuts. So that said, thanks for introducing us to kind of exactly what you guys do. Let's get into client intake for a sec. And obviously that's a major point of emphasis for both Lawmatics and Answering Legal. I'll say it again, client intake, which obviously, Blake, you mentioned part of your process. Can you both detail a little bit about how your company can help law firms with their client intake process? Nick, let's start with you first.
Answering Legal is a 24/7 virtual receptionist service. Which basically means that we are live staffed at all times to answer phone calls for the law firms that hire us. When someone reaches out to your law firm, you don't even have the opportunity to do a legal intake if you're not answering the phone. So what we do is we exist in the place where you can't get to the phone. It's outside of your business hours. You're in court. You're working on being a lawyer, all of those things, we make sure that someone is picking up your phone live as the actual representative of your firm. And then we do go a little bit further. We can do a legal intake. So a lot of lawyers will use this in a preliminary sense before they actually follow up with that client and really convince them on being sold on that law firm specifically. But we'll ask any and all of the pertinent questions that you need in your legal intake filled for you. And we send that over to, I know I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but we integrate with a platform like Lawmatics so that you can actually start nurturing that lead and converting them to a customer. So I'm sorry to steal a little bit of your thunder there, Blake, but that's what I got.
It's a great segue because, yeah, I mean, you guys on the front end and really what I was going to add and say in terms of Lawmatics perspective is, anything that doesn't require a live face-to-face, voice-to-voice communication, during that intake process can be automated within Lawmatics. And I think it's incredibly important in this day and age. Nick, you said you've been in the legal industry for 10 years. Even 10 years ago, it was just kind of getting started. But this whole idea of client-centric, being client-focused was really kind of foreign to law firms back in the day, right? It's like, if you need legal help, you need a lawyer, so you need to hire me. Now, with everything going on, I don't want to say commodity, but there's hundreds of law firms down the street from me, right, who do very similar things. And so focusing on speed, focusing on scheduling flexibility, like you guys help with in terms of after hours, getting a voice on the phone, it's crucial. And so for us, it's automating all these things that if someone goes and fills out a form on your website, they're going to get an email, they're going to get a text, they're going to get anything that you want to happen, and they can respond. And other things will come out. They'll get links based on actions that they take. And all this is happening within minutes as opposed to someone having to not be on a call and see an email and then remember to respond to it and then have to wait for another email and things like that. So it expedites that client interaction and it sets the entire process and client lifecycle off in a positive way.
All right. And Blake, that said, that's a really good intro into kind of how this synergy works between you guys, this integration, the partnership you both have. So I'm curious, you've just described your intake mechanisms, but now you're working together. So maybe Nick, let's dive into that. How does the integration actually work between your two companies?
So I am not the most technically sound person when it comes to integrations or API or anything like that. So I'll speak from a layman's term because that's really all I can do. But so what we do is basically for any customer that's using Lawmatics that wants to integrate with Answering Legal, we provide a secure link that initiates what's called an OAuth 2 authentication process. So when you click that link, you get automatically taken to a Lawmatics authorization page, and you just log in using your regular Lawmatics credentials, and you approve the connection between the two platforms. So once this is authorized, now your account is actually linked. And the cool part is that we have pre-built this integration directly with Lawmatics so that every time a field gets filled out in the way that we capture your messages for you, it automatically populates in that corresponding field in Lawmatics. So say part of your intake is from every caller, and this is like the normal flow of a phone conversation, all the general information populates like phone number, the person's name, obviously, their email address, and anything having to do with the specific intake questions that you want us to ask on our end gets automatically populated into Lawmatics.
Wonderful. So how does that work on your end, Blake? Like, why is that so helpful for you in terms of kind of they're serving you up the ball there, and then what?
Yeah, it's awesome, right? I mentioned it kind of in the intake question with the whole fact that, we don't do any of the actual communication, right? You're either setting up those emails prior to any of these things happening, or it's just giving you a task to go call someone. So the ability to have the Answering Legal integration where they're utilizing a service like Answering Legal that is collecting that data, it just helps expedite that process even further for the client. But it makes it easier for the law firm who's using both because they're not having to do double entry, right? You're not having to go and take all that stuff. And it once again expedites the process of getting that lead into the automation, right? So call comes in, answering legal takes it, it goes in the system. It's automatically going to kick it into Lawmatics, create the new matter. And then depending on how the law firm has their intake process set up, it's going to already put it into potentially a cadence, a follow-up. It's going to send them an email to have them fill out a longer intake form or schedule a consult. So it just streamlines the whole process and creates a very highly competitive advantage for the law firm in terms of getting that client signed.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, have you heard from any of the customers here, the law firms, how this partnership is benefiting them? Has there been any feedback from either Blake or Nick?
So I know personally that we have, I want to say it's close to in the hundreds of firms that use Lawmatics and Answering Legal together, and the feedback has been outstanding. And I can tell from my own personal, like, selfish numbers that anybody who is using an integration specifically with Lawmatics and Answering Legal ends up staying longer as a customer with us, just because it's more beneficial to them to actually, use an answering service in tandem with a platform like Lawmatics so that they can manage their practice, even better, because we save them time from having to answer the phone. Lawmatics saves them time from having to do all of the manual data entry and follow up and all of the things that they can automate as well.
It sounds like a really good synergy. Blake, have you heard anything on your end?
Yeah, specifically, I know, like Nick said, we have quite a few mutual clients, and typically when I don't hear things, that's better. So it's one of those things. But no, I mean, I know we've done a lot with you, and we have clients that are using that, and really the big thing I've heard and kind of what we preach from our sales perspective too is, if you're using an answering service and it doesn't integrate with your CRM, it doesn't make sense, right? Like both things are helpful separately, but together it makes a lot bigger impact. And so I think that's kind of been a real common theme that we've heard is like, I wish I had done this, years ago.
I mean, it just pairs so well together, but to the point of like 2 and 2 now equals 8, right? You just together, the combination is just,
right.
So much better together, as they say. This question's for Nick. I've heard that you've had personal experience using Answering Legal and a CRM together. So tell us a little bit about connecting those two things and how has that made your life easier?
So I have been trying not to jump the gun on this
Thank you
question.
very much.
And so I actually have experience using Answering Legal without a CRM and using Answering Legal with a CRM. So obviously, in my role as the marketing director here, I'm in charge of lead generation, doing all of our outbound and inbound marketing to make sure that people are aware of Answering Legal as a solution and ultimately getting them to sign up for a free trial on our site. And one of the main methodologies that lawyers still contact us with today is the phone. I would say it's about 50% of the way that people reach out to us, which I think I find it ironic if you sign up for an answering service online instead of calling, because it's like, you want to check out the call center. In the past, like, I use the call center. I have my own account that is filled with my own questions to qualify leads and make sure that they're getting, nurtured in the correct way through the sales funnel. I've done this, like I mentioned before, without a CRM. So I've done it with Google Sheets and just, typing in the manual data entry. So I know what it's like to go out and get a CRM and use it in tandem with the service and have those messages automatically populate into my CRM, where I can then start. I keep saying the word nurturing, but it's the only thing I have to call it. That's when I actually start moving them through the funnel, engaging with them, sending them emails like Blake is mentioning. I'll let Blake talk more about doing that because that's more of Blake's specialty. But it's just made it so much easier that I don't have to manually enter all of the leads that come in and all of their information into a CRM or into a Google Sheet. When they get automatically populated, it cuts out so much time of my workday, and now I'm able to do other things.
I mean, a huge difference for you. It's nice. It's kind of like hearing the live before and after. And Blake, Nick mentioned emails, if you want to kind of expand upon that.
Yeah, for sure. So from the perspective that we talked about where, you guys are pushing in this data, the firms can set up whatever kind of cadence they want in automation, right? So as soon as that lead comes in from Answering Legal, you can have it where it's going to send them a text, right? You can actually have a text communication back and forth, or you can have it where it's sending them a link to fill out a form. You can have them send the emails out too. in some cases, you have, and Nick, I believe we have a couple of firms where it's going to send a task to have you guys actually reach back out to the firm to collect more data. So there's a ton of flexibility in terms of what you can do. But I think, the communication from that standpoint, from the email perspective, is being able to automate every portion of it, which is it's a hot topic because I think, there's the people who are maybe slower to adopt this integration or slower to adopt these products in general. They like the idea. And I'm still kind of one of those people too, where I like to be able to manage that entire process. Like I want to have my hands in it. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you want to grow your business, you have to let go of that and trust the automation, especially in 2024, almost 2025, like the products out there are doing these things and talking together perfectly. That's just making life so much easier for you, and especially for your client.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely right. It's like there are those people that are old school that want to, like you said, control everything. But if you just give it a chance and kind of see the time, it frees up, and it's like, wow, this was really changing my life. Just takes that one. It's like sampling something, right? Just that one time to say, okay, now I'm seeing this in real time, and I see how this benefits me. Speaking of the word benefit, what do you think stands out as the biggest benefit? I mean, you guys have been talking obviously about that and why the partnership really works, but what do you think is the biggest benefit for your company, but also the customer? Maybe we can break it up that way, kind of that dichotomy. Nick, you can take this one first.
I'm not even really concerned with the biggest benefit for myself, because it almost is one of those things where it's kind of necessary at this point. Like I think it's almost table stakes if you're using an answering service that they have to be integrated with a platform like Lawmatics. So I think the biggest benefit is time, because the manual data entry, I can't imagine doing the manual data entry into your CRM from a personal standpoint, because let's say, I'll give you a scenario. A lot of the customers that I deal with are criminal defense, personal injury, bankruptcy, and family law. All of those types of law spend a lot of time in court and in meetings and in depositions and in arbitrations. You name it, they're in meetings. I can't imagine getting a message from my answering service on my phone and then having to remember to put that data into my CRM when I'm back at my desk. So the amount of time that it saves just doing that, so that when I get back to my desk after doing all of the work that I just did and not having it be populated into a platform like Lawmatics, would just, I think, truly drive me up the wall for good.
Boggles the mind that you may still have to do that. It's kind of like just busy doing nothing. It's already been input on one end, but now I got to take it and input it again. Right. It's just so redundant. So it would not make sense any other way. Blake, your thoughts?
Yeah. So to add on to that, this industry, time is crucial, right? Time is money. Literally, it is the billable hour in everything that any software in this industry tries to do is to help you increase the amount of billable hours by getting rid of the non-billable hour work. But the thing I'll say is, in order to get that money and get those billable hours, you need clients. And so not only if you're trying to do this and trying to manually do everything, not only are you wasting time that's not billable, you're also losing things through the cracks. So you may have clients come through, you forgot to do this, and now it's a day later and that client has already hired somebody else. Or you just forgot to respond to them at all. Or you keep meaning to get that email out to get referrals from previous clients, and you keep forgetting to do it. So I think a lot of things come down to like manual entry not only takes up a bunch of time, but there's so much error in it. You're going to miss a lot of things. So I think really making things more efficient is a huge benefit, and where this integration comes into place, like we've talked about, is just streamlining that whole process so that there are no errors. If a client doesn't hire you, it's not because you forgot to reach out to them. And
when you think about pre-automation, I mean, this is what law firms were doing, right? I mean, this is just what it was. Right. You can't imagine. There must have been a lot of errors, a lot of missed clients, right? A lot of missed business, a lot of time wasted, or however you want to quantify it or qualify it, where something like this is such a game changer.
Yeah. And I'll add one more thing. So you mentioned from the client perspective too, why
Yeah.
is this important? We talk about this a lot, and you'll hear our CEO, Matt, talk about this and a lot of things like that. It's like for these law firms, you may have 1,000 clients, right? Like if you're a family lawyer and you're doing a divorce case, you may have 1,000 divorce clients, right? To you, they're one of your clients or a prospect or things like that. To that lead or client, that you are the most important thing going on in their life. And so being able to offer that service without having to put much effort, actually putting less effort than you would have had to before, but they feel more involved, more communicated with, it's game changer for your firm in terms of client service and the expectations that you're putting out there.
And just feeling like they want to know that they're in constant communication, right? They don't we don't want 100%. Any dead air. Where are they? Why can't I reach them? This eliminates all of that, right? To just it's like, we're here for you. Right. We're spotting you. We have your back all the time. And that really, it's beyond words, right? As a client, as you said, they're the most important person in their life. So in addition to obviously just the business side of things, making things easier, right, for everybody involved, it's also that peace of mind that you really can't put a price on when you have a partnership like this. And it really speaks volumes. Nick, for our listeners who want to get set up with this integration, what does that process look like? Walk us through it.
Simplest process in the world, because we'll really walk you through it. We have an entire tech support team here who just specializes in getting people set up specifically with Lawmatics. So like I mentioned before, we just generate a secret link. Basically, you click on this link and it takes you to Lawmatics, where you authorize the connection between Answering Legal and Lawmatics. And then we can do some tweaking to make sure that all of the questions that you want on our end, that we're asking the client for you, opens a matter in Lawmatics. And I want to get this correct, and I have this in front of me. So all the general information, like name, phone number, email address, and message, populates into the corresponding fields within Lawmatics. And then all of your unique intake questions collected on the call populate in the notes section of your new matter. And then you can... in the activity view, you can show how the lead was created with the information from our call. And in the notes view, it shows all the unique intake questions and answers taken by the virtual receptionist on our end.
Amazing. I'm just curious, like if I put myself in the seat of someone who's considering this integration, is it one size fits all? It's not, right? Like, can I kind of tweak it to the way I'd like this integration to work, or how? What are the optics on that?
Yeah, I mean, the default integration, as Nick was talking, is what it is. But from the Lawmatics side, and I'm pretty sure from the Answering Legal side, obviously, one of the biggest value sets for our product is the customization, right? So even with the standard data coming through the way it does, there are things on our sides, automations on our sides, and things that our team can help set up where it's going to kick into more complex things, right? So it could update the status based on one of the questions that you have in there. If note section contains this, which would be a default, question that Answering Legal is going to ask, it's going to put it in different pipelines, right? So there's a lot of things that we can help kind of expand that from. That's not necessarily connected through API communication, like the actual integration, but there's tons of stuff that we can help customize with the Answering Legal integration. Like I mentioned earlier, having a task send a notification to Answering Legal to do an outbound, right? So things like that.
No, wonderful. It's good to know that from your end, right? It's kind of, how the person would like it to appear. It's not like this is all we offer. I mean, Blake, you've obviously touched upon it this entire chat, but for anyone who's considering this integration, why is now a great time for Answering Legal customers to try out Lawmatics? And any other recent developments or updates you want to share with us about the platform that you can tell us about before we go? Kind of new things coming?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of good timing, it's like, well, if you're not sold yet, like I would love to have a conversation with you. If you're already using Answering Legal, we'd love to talk. But it's really kind of what we talked about, right? Like it's saving time, it's creating value for you and your client, and really kind of to answer the question, I guess, specifically from what we didn't talk about is it's the end of the year, right? You're going into 2025. Now's the time if you're looking for some software to try out to get set up, get started. We're about to hit Thanksgiving, we're about to hit the holidays, and things are going to slow down. So it's a great time to learn a new software and implement it before the new year so you can really get started and hit the ground running. It's crazy that I'm talking about January right now, but it's going to be here before we know it. And I think any firm who's on the fence and looking for something to really kickstart their next year, it's a great time to try it out.
I'm just curious, Blake, tell us about that process. For anyone who says you're right, it is a great time. There's some downtime during the holidays. Now is the time to kind of see what's out there. Let's say they come on board. What does onboarding look like with Lawmatics?
Yeah, so we have custom onboardings that we'll set up with the firm. We have a few different options, and we really try to do our best to tailor it to the firm's needs. So we try to get as much information from the firm before the first call, just to ensure that we know what's their level of expertise, right? Is this someone who is a marketing team, or is this an attorney who's kind of running this, so that we know what we're going to need to maybe cover more of, everything like that. Some of our onboardings are 1 to 2 calls. Some are 3 to 5 calls, depending on how much in depth they want and which options they go with. But we definitely can do everything from getting you set to take the right steps to kind of build everything out on your own, all the way to more of a intimate, helping you build out some of these initial building blocks, setting up the integrations that you may already have. So like Nick said, they have support for Lawmatics customers. Same with us. I mean, our team is trained in how all of this works. So we want to make sure that any firm that gets set up is going to have the right building blocks. And so, yeah, like I said, with the time of the year and where we're at, it's a great time to do it, because you don't want to be starting to really try to implement a lot of product when you're trying to kick off a new year and get new business. It's really good to have that in place, because there are building blocks that have to be put. It doesn't just, you don't just open the box and everything automates.
Scaffolding after the foundation is put down, as they say.
Right.
So all that said, Blake, so where can attorneys go to learn more about the Lawmatics experience for people that are interested in a possible partnership?
Yeah. For sure. Well, you can go to the Answering Legal site. We're under the partnerships page there, integrations about more like that. You can also go to lawmatics.com, reach out to us, and we're happy to show you a demo, show you how the product works, show you how the integration works real time, and kind of go through that and really learn your firm's needs, what the practice area that you are, what practice areas you work with, how your firm functions. We really try to work with the firm, and where it's not just you're calling and you're getting the classic spiel, where we try to figure out what they do, what their needs are, what the pain points are, so that we can show you the features in our product that are really going to help change all of that. But yeah, lawmatics.com or through the Answering Legal website, you can find us there.
And you said customization, that's the word, right? So it's not one size fits all, right? It's very
key.
Specific. Every firm's different. That's kind of the mantra of Answering Legal with their intake, right? It's very specific. It's what you need for your firm and your types of clients, which is why the partnership is really, it's so in sync, because it makes sense, because you guys know truly what's important. Nick, final thoughts from you on this integration, the partnership? Any jokes, perhaps?
Just excited to continue working with Lawmatics. It's been a great partnership so far, and just looking forward to all the things we can continue to build together in the future.
Exactly. Blake, final thoughts?
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, ditto. It's been great. We love working with Answering Legal. It makes sense. And if you're thinking about it or on the fence, reach out to one of us, and we can help kind of go over those thoughts
and sample it, as they say. Take a bite and see if you want to have the whole meal. But what's exciting about the partnership with you guys is that you're in sync, it's working, there's some great synergy, and think about the possibilities that lie ahead, right? It just keeps getting better and better. And it's great to just be a part of something like that. And, your clients, the benefit they're getting, right? Just, comprehensively, time, effort, right? Working together, it's truly invaluable. So it's just nice to see everybody working together harmoniously and the benefit of the client, which is, at the core of it. So thank you both so much for your insight, for your time. It's been really great. And hopefully we've answered some questions for people who are curious about the partnership and why is this for me or why is this not for me? So thank you guys both again. That is all the time, as we said, for this episode of Inside Answering Legal. I think we did take you inside today, which is always unique. Our thanks once again to Blake Roberts and Nick Werker for the great chat and conversation we had today. And our thanks to you for tuning in, as always. And if you want to learn more about our company, we encourage you to visit answeringlegal.com. And of course, stay tuned to future episodes of this podcast. All episodes, by the way, of Inside Answering Legal can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the Answering Legal YouTube channel. We will see you next time, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us again.